All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy February of this year, 2023. I'm back to do another segment of Decoding How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. I believe this is Paul Chek's first book. We are currently on chapter 4, which is quite lengthy. This is the 6th part. Good morning, everyone. I see you all joining. Happy to see you all. So let me first explain to you guys why I've decided to begin this series. A lot of people have faced a great deal of hardship over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so not everyone today has the resources necessarily to go out and get the books that they need in order to discover the codes. Hey, Maku! In order to discover the codes. The codes, fam, you cannot find the codes in the memes, in the clickbaits, in the very short Instagram posts. In order to get to the meat of health and wellness, in order to get into, thank you, Keith Stone, in order to get into how you can truly re-empower yourself, or rather just empower yourself, really, in reclaiming your health, your wellness, your sanity, etc., you need to get into the books. And so not everyone has access to the books. I understand that and I understand that. Not everyone has maybe even the resources or the bandwidth to get into sort of like the really heavy, meaty information that is necessary in order for you to restore your well-being and your health. So this is kind of why we are going back to books and not getting our information from Twitter, from 140 characters, yada, yada, yada. So that's the reason why I'm doing this. So if you've been following me up until now, or supporting me rather, I don't like to use that word follow. If you've been supporting me and have been rocking with me up until now, especially on YouTube, you've seen that I've covered already 5 parts on nutrition. So it is quite a lengthy chapter in this book. Again, the book being How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. So if you've missed the first 5 parts, please go to my YouTube channel. Always, the handle is AlkaliYogi. That's where you'll find me on all social media platforms, if I'm on those social media platforms, and catch up on the first 5 parts. The part that we just covered on Monday, which was quite lengthy as well, was on sugar. Loads of you got great information on that I hope was beneficial to you. Today, we're going to summarize chapter 4 with ending with salt, which is salt and water. So today's broadcast is not going to be overly long. And if you have questions, always pop them in the comment section. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, same thing. And I'll try to answer as many questions as I can in real time. I also don't just read from the book specifically. From time to time, you'll see me adding in anecdotes and what have you, because I am a licensed and certified holistic lifestyle coach with the Chek Institute, as well as a yoga teacher with over 800 hours of yoga teacher training. But more importantly, I've been living a very holistic lifestyle now for close to 15 years. So you could say that I'm true to this and not new to this. All right, so carrying on, salt. Salt comes in the form of sodium chloride, not surprisingly, 2 elements that combine to create something unique and useful to our bodies. Whilst many have downplayed the need for salt, it serves the body in a number of key roles. Salt is vital to the extraction of excess acidity from the cells of the body, particularly, pay attention, the brain cells. Salt aids in balancing blood sugar levels, right? So those of you who have sugar addictions or are craving sweets probably need to add more quality salt, not any salt, but quality salt. We'll get more into that a little bit later, to your diet, beginning with your water. Salt is needed for the absorption of food particles through the intestinal tract. Salt clears the lungs of mucus plugs and sticky phlegm, particularly in those suffering from asthma and cystic fibrosis. Again, most of us know people who have one or both of those symptomologies. So salt is an absolute necessity in restoring and procuring health once more. Salt is a strong and natural antihistamine. If you are a person that sneezes a lot and suffers from quote unquote allergies around springtime due to pollen, etc., try applying a bit of coarse sea salt to your tongue and you'll see a difference. You don't need to be taking over-the-counter pharmaceutical drugs. because as you know, there's always going to be a cause and effect. There's always going to be toxicity that comes into the body when you take petroleum-based chemicals and put them in the body. The body is not able to break these items down. And so it ends up just really turning into toxicity for the body. Yes, it may mitigate your symptoms temporarily, but again, you're addressing just a symptom and then just creating a bigger issues by virtue of adding toxicity to the body, toxicity that the body then struggles to deal with and then will eventually lead to greater disease. So salt can aid in the prevention of muscle cramps. Again, many people suffer from that, right? So consuming the adequate amount of beverage meaning H2O, the body was only designed to drink water, nothing else. So you need to be drinking water, and you want to be adding a pinch of sea salt to that water to aid in absorption, as well as to aid in, again, the red blood cell formation, if you will. And salt is also needed in order to make the structure of the bones more firm. So loads of reasons to be increasing your intake of salt. Most of us that are familiar with the SAD diet, also known as SAD American diet, know that salt is oftentimes villainized. Sugar is rarely talked about negatively because sugar is a drug. And of course, if they can get you addicted, then it kind of benefits everyone, doesn't it? Agriculture, it benefits big pharma, it benefits loads of different sort of industrial complexes, if you will. But what you actually need is more salt. And again, if you're struggling with cravings and you're craving sweet things, try adding a bit of salt, fine quality salt, to your tongue and increasing your water intake. Chances are you're going to see some of those cravings diminish, at least to some degree. Let's talk about quality versus quantity. Refined versus natural salt. There's a big difference between typical refined white table salt sold at the grocery store and unrefined sea salt. This would be unrefined sea salt. I'm not advocating particularly for this brand. I'm just letting you know that good salt looks gray, tends to be coarse, although if it's been ground, that's okay as well. But in its most natural form, and you guys see that, look at how coarse that is. That is what salt looks like. This right here is filled and packed with nutrients and minerals that your body needs for health and wellness. That looks very different from the iodized salt that you get from the supermarkets. That's also very cheap. That's been processed and virtually stripped of all nutrients and minerals. And what did I tell you guys on Monday about absorbing or consuming things that are quote unquote naked? If you're consuming water, that is naked. If you're consuming sugar, that is naked. If you're consuming salt, that is naked. And these things are made naked by virtue of the fact that they're bleached and processed and stripped down. Then the first thing that they do as they enter your body is try to restore life by stripping you now of your nutrients and vitality, beginning with your teeth, because that's the point of contact, right? So if you are nutrient depleted, right, and you are feeling fatigued and tired and like no matter how well you're eating, you just don't feel alive and electric. You are electric beings. You are needing electricity in order to operate. How do you think your heart is pumping? How do you think your biological systems are pumping? All of your biological pumps need electricity, whether it be your circulation, your heartbeat, your respiration, your circulation. All of this requires pumping and electricity, right? So do not consume things that are stripped and naked. White table salt, white sugar, tap water that has not been remineralized. And how do you remineralize it? Add a pinch of sea salt per glass of water, and then top that off with the gratitude, an impartment of gratitude. It doesn't have to be a quote unquote prayer. This is not about religion. However, everything in nature is recording. Water is no different. Cells record things, and water being the biggest element, the largest element, not only in our bodies, but in the world, because if you look at the planet, it is primarily made up of H2O, and we, mimicking Mother Nature, are also primarily made up of H2O. At least 70% of us is H2O. So those cells are constantly recording. Water, we know, is a recorder. If you've studied or looked at any of the clinical studies performed by Master Emoto, then you know that water is constantly absorbing and recording. So given that, you want to be imparting thoughts of gratitude, whether you are drinking something or eating something, because on a scientific level, due to quantum physics, it has nothing to do with religion. We know that things are being recorded, right? So it behooves you to always say thank you. Be grateful. And also be grateful towards your body, because these are cells as well that need affirmation. Be grateful for your organs. Be grateful for the fact that you are alive. Even if your body is not looking and feeling how you would like it to look and feel today, things will only get worse if you're not appreciative of, if you're not compassionate towards, and you are not kind to yourself. Point blank and period. All right, getting back to salt, yeah. Traditional medical doctors, the media, and the food manufacturing industry seldom bring this point up, that there's a huge difference between table salt and real unrefined sea salt. First off, refined sea salt often contains anti-caking agents, some of which are aluminum-based. Aluminum is linked with heavy metal toxicity and possibly Alzheimer's disease. I'll tell you what else aluminum is linked to, the spectrum. If you have or know someone who is autistic, that person has been overexposed to heavy metals. Look up the Sophia Institute, and if you are on my page, you can look at Dr. Klinghardt, who was posted on my page maybe a couple of weeks ago, speaking about some of the elements that are most toxic to us, including glyphosate, aluminum, the importance of the pineal gland. He is the doctor that owns and started the Sophia Institute and has had tremendous success in reversing not just symptomology of the spectrum, but reversing people's overall condition who are on the spectrum, which includes things like Asperger's, ADHD, ADD, autism, etc. So not unlike Dr. Sebi, Dr. Klinghardt, that's Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, is also an important resource in helping you to restore wellness or to that of your loved ones. But by the way, side note, do you know exactly how much heavy metal is considered safe in your body? Anyone? The amount of safe heavy metal that you can have in your body is exactly 0. And when you consider that they put metal in the water, fluoride, when they put metal in the fillings, or at least they used to, mercury. We know that they're spraying aluminum and everything out in the air, etc. Also, aluminum and mercury are base products for every single, right? It doesn't matter if it's for hepatitis, never mind the vid, right? We won't even speak to that. But any that you've taken, whether it be for yellow fever or what have you, it doesn't matter. All of them have the same base, which is aborted fetal tissue, and then heavy metals of aluminum and mercury. So there you have it. And we know that there is absolutely no amount that's considered to be safe in the body, and yet this is the same base that's applied to every single one of those inoculations. All right, other additives such as dextrose, which is a sugar. We went over this on Monday. Anything that ends with an OSC is a sugar and has just been changed in terms of calling it a sugar to throw off the consumer. So other additives such as dextrose, which is a sugar, are used in iodized salt. Salt with iodine added to keep the salt from turning purple. Sodium silicoaluminate added to processed sea salt is thought to be associated with kidney problems and mineral malabsorption. Sodium acetate also added to processed table salt may cause elevated blood sugar, kidney disturbances, and water retention. So this is what the medical industry is doing right now, who are human beings, right? Let's please keep in mind that yes, we need our doctors. Yes, we need the medical professionals out there. As a holistic and licensed holistic practitioner, I'm an ally to the medical industry, so to speak, or sector. But this is kind of where some of the foo-la-la comes in with pertaining to the medical industry. And by the way, if you don't know, The third largest killer in America after heart disease and cancer is actual medical injury and medical error. So again, we need our medical professionals. Absolutely. Let's respect them. Let's uphold them. But remember that these people are just that. They are people. They are not beyond making mistakes. And oftentimes they are put in positions where their solutions, unfortunately, are profit driven. And so they're quick to put pen to paper versus getting down to the heart of whatever's going on with you. The reason I bring that up is because oftentimes when you hear of patients who have high blood pressure, the first thing the medical industry will tell you to do is to reduce your salt intake. But that is false. You reduce inadequate, or rather poor quality salt intake. Absolutely. If you have high blood sugar, you have no business consuming that crappy sea salt that's sold in most grocery stores. Matter of fact, even if you're healthy, you shouldn't be absorbed or consuming that because you want to maintain your health. So what you should be doing always is consuming an adequate amount of quality sea salt. And again, that looks gray, tends to be coarse, although sometimes it comes fine. And it is a lot more expensive, unfortunately, than the cheap stuff, but that's for a reason. I was telling my client just yesterday that if you are reluctant to pay for quality food to put into your body, right, which is more valuable than a Maserati, a Lamborghini, a Mercedes, which you would only put the finest oil and fuel in, right, you're doing yourself a disservice, fam. Because quite frankly, in the words of Steve Jobs, eat your medicine, otherwise you will be, make food your medicine, otherwise medicine will become your food. I'm going to repeat that. Make food your medicine before medicine becomes your food. Marinate on that. So again, if you're somebody that's having kidney issues, water retention, blood sugar, do the exact opposite of what the medical industry is telling you to do, which is avoid salt. Instead, swap out the rubbish and bring in the quality. And I promise you, you will see a huge difference. There are two common sources of salt, landmine and sea salt. Now, if you are a Sabian, meaning if you come from the school of thought of Dr. Sebi always said and advocated for salt coming from water. That is what he advocated for. However, I'm not opposed to Himalayan salt, which of course comes from mountains, etc. I think virtually either of those is going to be a better option for you than anything that's cheap and refined and processed, because they're both still quite nutrient dense. Landmine salt from Utah, for example, contains about 98% sodium chloride, and the remaining 2% is composed of iron, calcium, and smaller amounts of aluminum and strontium. The sodium from land-rocked sources or refined salts hardens and has an altered molecular structure. This sodium often remains in the body long after its job, causing joints to swell and kidney problems to develop. Unprocessed sea salt is about 70% sodium chloride, plus 11% magnesium chloride and smaller amounts of magnesium and calcium carbonate. There are many trace minerals in quality unprocessed sea salts, such as Celtic sea salt, that are beneficial to your body, serving many important regulatory and nutritional functions. So very interesting here. We've got Paul Chek and Dr. Sebi very much on the same page. Both are really advocating for sea salt that comes from, salt rather, that comes from the sea versus, let's say, landmine salt from Utah. Not that he's not for Himalayan salt. In fact, it doesn't appear that he even mentions Himalayan salt. But again, I would say if you currently have in your pantry at home Himalayan sea salt, don't feel like you need to toss that out. Absolutely utilize it. And then after that, I would say, partner, let me upgrade you to some Celtic sea salt. Yeah? All right. Salt and your health. Salt consumption, like carbohydrate, protein, and fat consumption, is surrounded with controversy and differing opinions from all sectors of the medical and healthcare community. The medical community generally believes that overconsumption leads to high blood pressure and increased chances of heart disease. Did I not just mention this? I warned you guys. I'm sharing all the codes with you. Indeed, there are a plethora of studies to suggest this is true. However, most of the research on salt is done on refined salt, not on natural, unprocessed sea salt. So just like I said to you 5 minutes ago, yeah, They're going to tell you to come off the salt if you're suffering from kidney issues or malabsorption and high blood pressure, because they know you're consuming the cheap rubbish, right? Avoid the cheap rubbish and take in the good salt, and you're probably going to see a lot of that symptomology reversed and your health restored to a great extent. Renowned cardiac surgeon Richard Poley, MD, doesn't restrict salt or saturated fat intake with his cardiac patients because he has not seen indicators that cause either of those problems, because no one has taken the time to do studies, to conduct clinical, thorough studies on the benefits of Celtic sea salt and whether they would in fact lead to things like cardiac arrest, heart disease, and high blood pressure. There simply isn't any data that shows that. Dr. F. Battenmangelji, a medical doctor famous for his groundbreaking work on water, recommends that we add a pinch of high-quality sea salt to each liter of drinking water. This is what I just said to you guys a minute ago. Add a pinch of sea salt to your water and notice how you feel more satiated because it aids in absorption of the water. Otherwise, the water is going right through you. And you need the water to hydrate you, your cells, your tendons, your connective tissue, yada, yada, yada. So you don't want the water to be stripped and go straight through you, because not only is it going straight through you, it's also taking from you. So you want water that is giving, not water that is taking. Anything naked will take. Roger Williams, a renowned researcher in the field of biochemical individuality. Remember, you are individually unique, which is why there is no one solution fits all. This is another problem with the medical compound industry, right? Complex, if you will, is that they tend to look at everyone as more or less the same. They barely make modifications and concessions for the fact that your lifestyle, your physiological load, meaning your stress levels, personal relationships, your career and how you feel that's going, your sleep or ability to sleep well, access to sleep, whether or not you're still in the same time zone in which you were born in. All of these things play a factor, never mind your DNA and your genetics, which are also unique. This is why it behooves you to consult with a licensed professional holistic practitioner or wellness coach before you go to a doctor who's going to look at you as one of the masses, when in fact you are an individual. And I'll just add this as well to that point. This is why those diets, keto and paleo and South Beach and yada, 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 simply cannot work for everyone. Again, you need something that's customized and unique to you, just as you're unique on the inside, or on the outside rather, right? You're going to be unique on the inside. And so you have to be approached in that manner. Unfortunately, today, doctors don't have the time or the bandwidth or whatever the case is, maybe the incentive to look at you and treat you as such. And I'm not speaking about old doctors. I understand and I understand that there are certainly the people out there that are still taking their oath very, very seriously and are still able to connect with you as a human being before they connect with you as a patient doctor, and really get down to the heart of whatever it is that brought you to their office on that day. I'll summarize this point before I get back to the book by saying this. If you saw my post by Dr. Alan Greenberg, the only time that you should really be going to see a physician anyways is if you're in the danger of losing life or limb. Beyond that, the onus and the responsibility is really on you. Just because you have dandruff, just because you have endometriosis, just because you have eczema, just because you have digestive problems, does not mean that you need to go to a doctor. Going to an ally of the medical profession, i.e. a holistic lifestyle coach, a holistic practitioner, yada, 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 somebody who's licensed and educated, will help you make the necessary behavioral modifications to aid in whatever brought this symptomology on in the first place. You don't need to get onto pills and medications that only increase toxicity in your body and that over time will only harm you and create a whole host of other symptomology and problems, because the medical industry doesn't want to tell you the truth, which is you got yourself in this position. Maybe you've been staying up too late at night. Maybe you've been eating too many potato chips. Maybe you're not getting enough movement. Maybe you're breathing incorrectly. You might have developed faulty breath patterns, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we do. And then if you don't see results with us, then you go to a doctor. But you have to first take the onus and the responsibility onto yourself to say, am I doing the best that I can in order to be healthy? Because frankly, we have more doctors now than we've ever had before on the planet, and yet we are sicker than we've ever been before on the planet. Before, every village had one or two healers and shamans. You would go to them, again, only if you were fighting to stay alive, if you were near your death. But beyond that, the general assumption is you can do something to reverse your own asthma. You can do something to reverse your own lupus. You can do something to reverse your own diabetes before you go to a doctor and get onto a whole host of medications. And if you come off Google and start to use other search engines, or just check my personal page on Instagram, you'll see that I have quoted numerous doctors who have had success in doing that, including reversing AIDS. Dr. Sebi himself won against the state of New York. And this is for public record if you look it up. Maybe not on Google because, they do the whole censorship thing, unfortunately. But the judge asked him to bring one AIDS patient who he had cured, and Dr. Sebi had the audacity to bring in 77 patients whose AIDS he had cured. To quote Dr. Sebi, I don't treat AIDS, I cure AIDS. And there are many doctors out there that have done the same thing with herpes, lupus, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the onus is on you before you go to the medical industrial complex, to get yourself a prescription. Make behavioral modifications. You can restore your wellness and your health. Your body was quite literally designed to do so, which is why you have waste and elimination systems throughout the body, right? You breathing out CO2 is removal of waste. You defecating is removal of waste. Your lymphatic system is removal of waste. You removing matter coming out of the eye over here in the morning, that's waste removal. You have loads and loads and loads of ways that your body's constantly detoxifying. Your skin, being the largest organ in the body, is constantly removing waste. So you are designed to get rid of the and the bad stuff and be healthy. You just have to age your body. And what I'm here to do is simply just to remind you of how to age your body in doing exactly what Mother Nature designed it to do, which is to reduce, eliminate, remove waste, and be healthy, and regenerate, and recenter, and recalibrate. That's what you're designed to do. That's how miraculous you are. So back to the book, yeah? Because it's often hang on, I'll go back to the top of this paragraph. Roger Williams, a renowned researcher in the field of biochemical individuality, found a difference of more than 30% in the sodium content of blood cells amongst individuals, as well as a 4-fold variation in salivary sodium. Because it's often our taste for salt that indicates how much we apply to a given foodstuff, it's important to note that Roger Williams' research found that the taste threshold values varied between individuals over a 20-fold range. Consider these figures in addition to William Wolcott's research on metabolic typing and individual differences in foods and nutrients needed by those with different primal pattern diet types, and it's easy to see why you can walk out of a medical library with your head spinning, right? It's again because there's so much confusion created, and that confusion is to disempower you. That's why there's so much confusion out there. You cannot just look to, again, the medical industrial complex to give you the answers for what you need, because quite frankly, they're treating you like you're part of an assembly line. They get you in, they write you a prescription, and they let you out. We need to get to the heart of what's really going on with you. What's your metabolic type, your ancestral lineage? All of that will play a part in what's going to be best for you. Again, are you sleeping enough and at the right times? Are you breathing correctly? Are your thoughts stinking thinking, or are they quite positive? Are you getting enough movement? Your nutrition, your hydration, what does that look like? Are you still currently in the time zone in which you were born in? All of these things matter because everything summates. Everything summates. It is cumulative in the body. So for you, if I were your doctor and you just came to me and you're like, well, I have this symptom and that symptom and that symptom, and then I've just written you a prescription without asking you more. Well, what's going on in your personal life? Are you fulfilled with your career? Are you getting adequate sleep? How much water are you drinking a day? What are you eating primarily? What does your nutrition look like on a daily basis? It's debatable then with whether or not I should even be considered a health professional, because all of these things are going to determine your health or lack thereof. And that's helping me to see the overall picture, right? Unfortunately, that's not where we're at today. Shamans and healers still very much take this practice, which is my assumption is we come as holistic lifestyle coaches and practitioners, is we're basically coming from that lineage of shamans and healers, because we are, again, trying to see the entire picture and get an overall overstanding, right? Get the overall overstanding of what's happening with you versus just shouting out or spewing off recommendations and suggestions for the sake of sounding off and giving you recommendations and suggestions for the sake of sounding like we're knowledgeable and we know what we're talking about. No, I need to listen first to you. You need to tell me what's going on in great detail, about various different things in your life before I can even start to come to any ideas as to why you have X and Y symptomology in your body. So to summarize, salt, checkpoints on healthy salt intake. Use unprocessed sea salt. Celtic, French, or New Zealand are good sources. Due to pollution around much of the world, sea salts can contain mercury and other toxic heavy metals. Yet New Zealand seas are considered some of the safest. Big up to New Zealand. Always salt your food after tasting it to avoid adding too much salt. If you have a good diet of primarily raw organic produce and quality free range animal meats, using a quality sea salt to taste will add nutrition that your body needs. Number 4, if you drink adequate amounts of water, adding a pinch of quality sea salt, again, to about each liter of water you drink will assist in maintenance of electrolyte and energy levels. So let's talk about electrolyte beverages and all that food, and that whole massive beverage industry, which is making hundreds of millions of dollars and not really serving you. Mother Nature covered it all. I don't know how else to say it. And if you don't believe that, then you need to spend more time with her. You need to take off your shoes and your socks and go walk through the beach or walk through a forest and reconnect. You need to come off of your devices and be quiet and serene in nature. You need to lay down, preferably naked, on organic matter, whether it be the beach or whether it be foliage in the forest or grass. You need to reconnect. If you don't overstand and understand that Mother Nature forgot zilp, zitch, zero, stingy with De Niro, then you're not going to get this. But your electrolytes are right here. So if you're wondering why there's a potentially multi-billion-dollar industry of drinks serving you, sugary drinks, colored drinks filled with preservatives that are telling you that they're giving you electrolytes, that's the foo-la-la. That's the matrix. That's all the chaos and confusion that they create in order to take money from your pocket and put it into theirs. If you want electrolytes in your beverage, add a pinch to a liter of sea salt, add a prayer, and poof, just like that. Electrolytes, minerals, vitamins, everything that you need, prana and life force is already added without color, additives, and whatever else they're putting in there. Sugar, which, by the way, any beverage that claims to be hydrating and has quote unquote electrolytes, if they have any form of sugar, is lying to you. It's false. It's false advertising, because sugar dehydrates you. It actually strips moisture away from your body and your cells. So any of those sugar ending in starts with a G, ends with the aid, and then all the other brands that I'm not even familiar with, forget them. You don't need them. That's the thing, is that, again, you don't need to be buying things that man created when nature had it right the first time. So if you want electrolytes, if you're an athlete, let go of that colored, sugared stuff, which is only going to, down the line, create inflammation and cancer, no cap. And instead, get yourself quality spring water, add a blessing, add a pinch of sea salt, and Bob is your uncle. All right. Athletes who experience electrolyte loss, this is point number 5, athletes who experience electrolyte loss through sweating may find that using a quality sea salt in their foods and in their water improves energy levels. Becoming lightheaded upon standing due to low blood pressure is a symptom related to low electrolyte level. This can often be prevented by following the guidelines above. If you have low blood pressure, quit the cheap salt, get on the good salt, and you'll see a huge difference. Water. Ba, ba, ba. Probably my favorite topic when it comes to nutrition. Allow me to take a sip. All right. Though water covers 2/3 of the earth, only 3% of the earth's water is fresh, and of that percentage, only 1% is accessible to humans. An interesting correlation between humans and earth can be made with regard to water content. Almost 70% of the earth is covered by water, and most of that is ocean. And humans are also composed of about 75% water throughout our blood system. Our blood containing roughly the same salinity as ocean water, by the way. Whilst water plays many key roles in our body's water's chief functions, while water plays many key roles in our body's water's chief functions are to maintain a stable environment inside and around the cells, allowing us to acquire sufficient nutrition and aiding in elimination of waste in cells. To provide an optimal environment for life, the water we consume through food and drink must be clean and should supply the body with needed electrolytes. But is this the case today? Today, we have a very unique situation as living beings, totally dependent upon Mother Earth for our survival. We have polluted almost every single water supply in the world. It is hard to find a municipal water supply not contaminated by agricultural chemicals. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, also known as the EPA, has identified over 700 pollutants that regularly occur in drinking water, both from municipal sources and from water taken directly from the earth through wells or springs. The EPA monitors 8 inorganic and 10 organic chemicals, leaving approximately 30,000 possible hazardous pollutants without regulation. Due to the cost and time required to test for the vast amount of chemicals in our water supplies, we're left on our own to determine where to get safe water. The EPA also reported that agriculture, commercial not organic, is the biggest polluter of America's rivers and streams, fouling more than 173,000 miles of waterways. So the same people that are advocating, for chemicals, and we must spray our food, we must spray our foods in order to have enough, to feed the planet. There simply won't be enough, which is kind of a moot argument because these projections or models have never actually been allowed to be manifested and play out. So there's really no evidence that they are in fact accurate models. They're really guesstimates at best. But it's funny because they continue to say we must spray, otherwise the world will go hungry. And people are already going hungry anyways. And yet at the same time, we have conceded to that and we've allowed them to spray our foods. And the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency itself, is right here saying that this is the biggest contributor to polluting America's rivers and streams. Do you guys see the polarity and the confusion of it all? They're saying we have to spray. There simply isn't enough, which I reckon is just bollocks, to be honest with you. And yet at the same time, they're admitting in the same breath, that these chemicals, the herbicides, the fungicides, the pesticides, the rodenticides, which are all toxic and lead to cancer. By the way, in June of 2020, Bayer, who owns Roundup, was issued to pay $10 billion in damages because Roundup does in fact cancer. Check it out. And it's polluting the water. And yet we keep going along with this narrative. Make it make sense. If the math is adding, put it in the comments. Please make it make sense. Human and industrial waste discharge and agricultural runoff places a major restriction on the uses of available fresh water. 90% of the developing world's wastewater is discharged untreated into local rivers. In China, 80% of the country's major rivers are so degraded that they no longer support fish. Many Eastern European rivers run yellow with industrial poisons. 300 million gallons of raw or partially treated sewage is discharged around England's coastline each day. And 2 million tons of toxic waste are dumped in the sea annually. The pollution in our waterways from industrial agriculture has become so bad that when people see a stream, river, or lake that's clear and blue, they stop and stare because it's become so rare. I recommend using a whole house filtration system to minimize exposure to heavy metals, chlorine, and other waterborne toxins. If it's on your skin, you're basically drinking it. So if you want to make sure that the water you bathe in is as clean as the water you're drinking, invest in a whole house filtration system. Dr. Martin Fox, author of Healthy Water, suggests that most health-giving waters have a hardness factor of about 170 milligrams per liter or greater, and a total dissolved solids of 300 or greater. Those are your minerals, by the way. Many bottled waters will provide these statistics on the labels if they are reputable brands. Frequently, because of unfounded beliefs and fears of hard water or solids in water, you'll find that a number of the top brands are soft in comparison to these recommendations from Dr. Fox, as well as lacking in total dissolved solids. But don't worry, simply add a pinch or two of sea salt or even a bit of clay, and both the total dissolved solids and hardness are likely to be well within the ideal range. Remember to store water in dark, cool areas and in glass if possible. Never purchase water from smoky plastic containers because they leak all sorts of chemicals into your water. And if you're consuming water from a plastic container, make sure that it is clear and take extra effort to keep it out of direct sunlight. Consume water at room temperature because cold water will only sit in your stomach until it reaches your body temperature. Very important there. So how much water should you drink? The Czech Institute has adopted F. Batmanghelidze's MD's hydration guidelines. He suggests that for normal hydration, determine your body weight in pounds, take notes, and then divide it by 2. That then you convert into ounces, and that will be your water intake daily. That means if you weigh 100 pounds, you divide that by 2. That means you're now at 50. 50 ounces would be the correct adequate amount of hydration for your body. See, we're not going to say 6 to 8 because everybody is different, but the mainstream is going to tell you 6 to 8 glasses of water. But if you're 300 pounds, are you going to be drinking the same amount of water as somebody that's 100 pounds? It simply doesn't make sense. Keep the math adding up. So again, he recommends a pinch of sea salt in each liter of water. If you don't salt your food, again, he recommends a pinch of salt in each liter of water. I've also found that many people have a hard time drinking adequate amounts of water until they've added unprocessed sea salt. The sea salt, when just a pinch or 2 is added, can't be tasted, but it does give the water a nice mouth feel. Most people also find that adding a pinch of sea salt to water reduces the frequency of urination. Not being funny, yeah, but just yesterday I was speaking to one of my clients who's an elite athlete, 20 years old, and he actually said the same thing. He's been doing the pinch of sea salt for an entire month, and he said that it feels better in his mouth. It feels like he's actually hydrated, and that mouth feels exactly what he was referring to. 100%, no cap. Milk, juices, sodas, and coffee. Dun, dun, dun. We are designed to drink water and nothing else. Dr. Sebi said the same thing. In the past 10,000 years, raw milk has become recognized as a nutritious food staple, as did raw, unprocessed fruit juices. Although I am not a proponent of processed milk and fruit juice, most mothers see milk and fruit juices as staple food sources. Americans today drink twice as much soda as milk and nearly 6 times more soda than fruit juice. This clearly demonstrates the power of advertising and certainly serves as a banner for the addictive powers of both sugar and caffeine, particularly when they are combined. Adverse effects from displacing water with soda pop, processed juice, or coffee include tooth decay, sugar addiction, caffeine addiction, insulin resistance and syndrome X, and diabetes. Increased chances of osteoporosis, increased severity of kidney stones, nervousness, insomnia, and attention deficit disorder. How many people do you know suffer from this? Or perhaps you maybe suffer from one or more of these symptoms yourselves. So your body is communicating with you. Do yourself a favor. Stop ignoring it. Stop numbing it. Pay attention and make the behavioral modifications. This is your wake up, clean up, get up, and show up call. It's time that we act like the adults that we are. Where to get good water. Supermarkets are loaded with water choices, but don't be fooled into thinking that because it's in a bottle that it is good for you. Many companies have been caught bottling tap water. Regulations on bottled water vary from state to state and from country to country. Some of the top quality brands are Evian, Volvic, Vital, Fiji, and Trinity. Water from artisan water naturally flowing to the surface well is always ideal. Storage and packaging. How often do you shop? If your answer is the most common one, which is once a week in North America, here are a few important tips that you need to make note of. Once picked, produce quickly loses its nutritional value, especially conventionally raised products. So we've summarized water now, guys, and we're kind of just summarizing now all of nutrition. Okay, so I just want to again reiterate, we've come to the end of water. We've named for you the best water sources. Oh, I'd like to add to that. In addition to Evian, Volvic, Vital, Fiji, and Trinity, I actually get my water from, for those of you that are in the United States, Mountain Valley. They provide both distilled water as well as spring water. So make sure that you're paying attention if you're going to be ordering from them. And they deliver directly to my door once a month. So it's ideal. I buy in bulk. The big 5-gallon jugs. I buy many of them each month so that there's always adequate water in the house. In this way, I'm also reducing in waste. So it's more efficient, it's more economical. Mountain Valley, I highly recommend them. So now again, just to get back to overall nutrition and food, we are finishing up this chapter, which is chapter 4 on how to eat, move, and be healthy by the Paul Chek. When it comes to food, if you are shopping once a week, you are doing yourself a disservice. Once food has been picked, it loses its nutritional value, especially conventionally raised products. An estimated 80% of the food in supermarkets is already stale. More frequent shopping will at least yield relatively fresher foods. Shopping at a farmer's market or a shop that sells locally grown raised products is ideal. In Europe, those of you that are in Europe or are European or have traveled to Europe know this. A lot of European flats have the really small, tiny ones. They kind of look like the dorm-sized refrigerators. That's quite common in Europe, or maybe slightly taller even. And that's a great way to incentivize you to shop every 2 days or so. I shop every 2 days, literally, because I'm always having to replenish on raw vegetables and raw fruit. And we go through that stuff to such high quantity that I have to make even 4 trips every single week to the grocers is not uncommon for me. And if you're buying or consuming primarily raw foods, which you should be doing anyways, I would say a good 80% of your food should be raw. Even if you're eating cooked protein, your carbohydrates should be primarily raw. That should be reason why you should be going to the store more often than not, because you will need to be replenishing that stuff quite often. Purchasing fresh certified organic foods whenever possible not only has a better shelf life, but also according to research done by Enrefried Pfeiffer, it'll provide its nutritional profile it will retain rather its nutritional profile for 7 to 10 days after being picked. So again, mass media will tell you that there's no real difference between conventional produce and organic, but as you can tell by studies, actual clinical studies that were performed without bias, conventional produce tends to lose its nutritional value quickly, whereas organic produce tends to hold on to its nutritional value for a good 7 to 10 days after being picked rather. So again, you're getting more bang for your buck. Dr. Pfeiffer stated that conventionally farmed produce begins losing nutritional value from the moment that it is picked, unlike organic produce. Meats purchased fresh will last several days when properly refrigerated and will retain good nutritional value when they're frozen. Remove only enough from your freezer to last 24 hours. If you live in a region with distinct climate changes and produce is seasonal, purchasing certified organic frozen foods, flash frozen foods, will provide the best nutritional value and eliminate the chances of pesticide exposure at the same time. Schedule your purchases of produce, dairy, and meats on the day that they arrive at the market. So communicate with your grocer or your local farmer's market, because again, the onus is on you. It's not on your doctor. It's not on anyone else. It's not on your government to look after you. So the onus is on you. Time it so that you're getting the best quality, freshest products available. Storage. Let's talk storage. Packing food in plastic wrappers and containers as well as in cans is very risky business. A study performed in the UK found that 2/3 of canned foods contain low levels of potent carcinogen and estrogen mimicking compound bisphenol A, BPA. A number of toxic solvents used to clean cans and various food containers prior to being filled may also be present. Similar estrogen mimicking compounds are found in plastics and can leach into your foods, especially when the plastic becomes heated, even just from the sun. These substances, particularly when repeatedly exposed to them, can damage our bodies and in fact do. Use stainless steel, glass, or cast iron for cooking. This one is major, guys. Major. If you are into nonstick pans, this is for you. Pay attention. Never heat or cook foods in a plastic container, aluminum pot, or pans, or cheap cookware. Most nonstick cookware, as well as tin cans, are lined with Teflon. Manufacturers would like you to believe that Teflon lining in cans, in pots, and in pans is safe and won't leach toxins. But here's a little test. Here's a little test that will prove them wrong. Put a cup or two of water in a nonstick pot. Bring that water, should be about a ½ inch or so, to a boil and simmer for 1 minute. And then add a teaspoon of baking soda. Remove the spoonful of water and smell it. And you'll see that it smells like Teflon. That's the chemicals coming out. It's not a pleasant scent. It's quite potent and pungent. And that is exactly what's being leached into your food. So it would be tragic for you to be procuring great quality produce or meat products from a local's market, a local farmer's market, or what have you, after they've taken the time to grow with love, with humanity, without the use of harmful chemicals, only to then put all that good stuff, into a cheap frying pan or pot that's been lined with poison, and then let that seep into your food. It would kind of be of a fool's errand, wouldn't it? So please do not cut corners when it comes to your cookware and your storageware. You'll see that again, when the water has cooled off and you taste the water, and please don't swallow it if you're going to actually perform this test, that it tastes disgusting. All you need to do to taste it is put it onto your tongue. You don't need to swallow it. That's where your taste buds are. You will be absolutely repulsed, guaranteed. So imagine what's happening if you're frying an egg or vegetables or meat at double that temperature, right? And that's exactly what I was just saying. What a waste of great produce or meat products to then be poisoning yourself in such a manner. Microwave ovens. Dun, dun, dun. When I ask my clients why they use microwave ovens, they inevitably say because it's fast and it's easy. If your child was to say, I've devised a fast and easy way to do my homework, or I've come up with a fast and easy way to make money, or what would be your gut reaction? You'd probably think that their plan isn't as good, and it may sound like they're likely going to end up in some sort of trouble. Well, that's the innate wisdom of a parent. Most doctors and therapists also begin to develop an innate wisdom with regard to what is and what is not health-giving. Some ignore it because of their innate wisdom. Some ignore it because their innate wisdom competes with their materialistic desires, yet others will investigate concerns. This is exactly how my investigation of the microwave oven and food came about. I recall being at my grandparents' home for many years ago when my grandparents offered eggs for breakfast. She cracked a couple of eggs open, scrambled them, and poured them into a microwavable dish. A minute or so later, a bell rang and she served up my eggs. I was rather shocked, having grown up on a farm where I was never exposed to such technology. The first thing I noticed was the color was very light in comparison to the eggs I had eaten before. I took a bite and was perplexed by the almost styrofoam consistency. I remember picking the eggs up, which was very easy because they held a shape almost exactly like a hockey puck. Whilst I was several years away from beginning my career in health and fitness, my gut response was that something was amiss in microwaving foods. As the years passed, I came to have a family of my own. My concern of the microwave lingered in the background, yet I too fell prey to the notion of using the microwave in order to save time. I was, however, continually reminded by the little voice at the side of my head each time an egg came out of a microwave. And then I read Robert Obecker, MD's book, The Body Electric, which enlightened me to the potential dangers of even standing near a microwave oven. Once activated, they emit electromagnetic pollution of a greater magnitude than most electrical appliances. Listening to my inner voice and knowing that eggs should not have the characteristics of a hockey puck, I resolved to using the microwave to heat water whilst I stood at a distance. My concerns about the microwave made a quantum leap toward justification a few years ago when I began studying a nutrition course by well-respected nutritionist and naturopathic physician in San Diego, David Getoff. In his course, he describes some of the harmful effects of the microwave and raised a number of concerns, including the microwaves produced by microwave ovens damage the cell walls of foods to such a degree that the gut receptors are not likely to recognize microwave food particles as food, resulting in an immune response. Microwave ovens heat foods from the inside out by the use of alternating current to produce electromagnetic radiation. This alternating current, driven by microwave radiation, reverses the polarity of the atoms, molecules, and cells of the foods or waters by being heated 1 to 100 billion times a second. By being heated 100 billion times a second. Atoms, molecules, or cells of organic systems are not able to withstand such a violent destructive force for any extended period of time, not even in the low energy range of milliwatts. Microwave technology is used in the field of gene-altering technology to weaken cell membranes. How apropos that we have a gene-altering technology, and now we've also got gene-altering injections. Seems like this has been in the works for some time, wouldn't you say? Heating breast milk, even at a low setting, can destroy some of its important disease-fighting capabilities. John A. Kerner, MD, found that using the microwave oven to heat breast milk causes the milk to lose lysozyme activity and antibodies, as well as fostering the growth of more potentially pathogenic bacteria. Milk heated at a high setting of 72 to 98 degrees Celsius lost 96% of its immunoglobulin A antibodies, which are agents that fend off invading microbes. As for heating breast milk using the low setting, Dr. Kerner surmised, adverse changes at such low temperatures suggest microwaving itself may in fact cause some injury to the milk above and beyond the heating. Some hospitals have banned the use of microwave ovens for the purpose of heating baby foods or formulas of any kind. Since they don't allow the use of microwave ovens for a baby's food, I cannot understand why they continue to use them to feed everyone else in the hospital. For anyone with any ounce of logic, this should raise some serious questions. The first ones being, if microwave breast foods and breast milk suppress immune system activity and might be damaging to a baby, why should that be different for adults? Microwavable packaging. Though the FDA has not developed and implemented specific regulations, they've recognized that chemical components of adhesives, polymers, papers, and paperboard products used in microwave packaging migrate into the food. According to the Safe Shopper's Bible, microwaving some packaging may cause it to disintegrate, allowing carcinogens and other uncharacterized chemicals contained in the packaging to enter the food. Whilst the migration of chemicals from such packaging into foods is yet poorly studied, one such chemical, dimethyl terephthalate, shows evidence of being a carcinogen. Heat susceptor packaging that helps retain food for heat for browning, in particular, is used for microwaving such products as popcorn, pizza, French fries, fish sticks, and waffles. Slow and steady wins the race, fam. I know this is a lot to take in. Don't feel like you have to make all of the changes that have been suggested overnight. Instead, choose a few to address at a time. Remember, healthy living is a lifestyle and not a quick fix. I'd rather you take the things on slowly and stick to your plan for the long term rather than to dive in and quit because it was too much. The good news is that the more positive changes you make in regards to your eating habits, the better you will feel and the more energy you will have to happily continue your quest for optimum health. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of chapter 4, which was, I believe, the longest chapter once more in How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Again, this is to help us all get the codes, get the cheat codes that we need to restore our own health and wellness so that we can be accountable to ourselves and responsible for ourselves. There's no point in hoping and praying that the government and or major corporations are going to be vested in your interest because, quite frankly, they get rich and powerful when you are weak and confused and not well. So it seems to me like their business strategy would be to keep you as such. Next week, we will be moving into movement and ideal movement. This is a really interesting one. Not everyone should be moving, believe it or not. That's kind of a cliffhanger. I mean, you should be moving, but not everyone needs to be exercising. And that's coming from me, a Czech certified holistic lifestyle coach and corrective exercise coach. Not everyone needs to be exercising. I'll get into more next week, but for now, I'm going to leave you with that cliffhanger. Have a great week. Have a great rest of your day. And if you've missed the first 5 parts of nutrition that I read from and gave anecdotes to, you can always go back to my YouTube channel, AlkaliYogi, and you can review some of those videos that you may have missed. As always, put your comments in the comment section, whether on Instagram or on YouTube, and I'll do my best to get to your answers, or you can DM me. As always, get free and stay free. Until next time, bye.